You know that feeling, don't you? It's Monday morning, you glance at your calendar, see that first team meeting pop up, and well, a part of you is already trying to fast forward, thinking, okay, let's just get through this so I can finally tackle the real work. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? That feeling that the kickoff, the check in, maybe the daily huddle, they're just uh, hurdles, obstacles before the actual race starts. Well, get ready for maybe a bit of a mind shift today because our deep dive is going to challenge that exact idea. We're digging into some really powerful insights from a LinkedIn post by Gunther Williams. He's the CEO of Idaho Sewing for Sports, LLC, and his post, it's called Unlocking Extraordinary Teams, the Power of Starting with Ritual. Honestly, it made us stop and really rethink, what actually builds great teams. So our mission today, we want to unpack this potentially transformative thought. What if those little things, those everyday rituals, the way we start the day or kick off a meeting or even just say hello, what if they aren't just, being polite or ticking the box?
Yeah.
What if they're actually the foundation, the bedrock of an amazing workplace culture? We're going to explore how putting real intention into how we begin things can unlock some incredible team dynamics, better safety to speak up, and maybe even more innovation. Let's really get into it.
It's a huge reframe, isn't it? A real shift in perspective. And Williams himself, he's refreshingly honest about it. He admits he used to do the same thing, rushing past the soft stuff to get to the, quote, hard work. But then he had this kind of aha moment. He asked himself, what if these rituals were the real work? And that's more than just a catchy line, right? It fundamentally challenges how we usually think about productivity.
Yeah, because for so long, productivity's been seen as just output.
Yeah.
Head down, ticking off tasks, getting things done, measurable stuff. But what Williams argues, and I think pretty convincingly, is that the prep work, the human connection, setting the right tone intentionally, those things that happen in these rituals, they aren't just side dishes to high performance. They're absolutely core to it. When we really buy into this idea that how we begin matters profoundly, we're not just scheduling our day.
Yeah.
We're actually shaping the mindset, the collaborative vibe, and ultimately the actual results of the whole team. Is like preparing the soil before you plant anything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's where it starts clicking for me, too. He points to specific things like morning rituals, weekly kickoffs, even just genuine greetings. Now, a lot of people might just brush these off as, pleasantries, things you just got to do quickly. But Williams is saying, no, they're way more important than just niceties. So what is it about these simple acts? Why are they so foundational? And maybe what happens if we don't treat them that way?
Well, Williams puts it directly. These rituals form the foundation of extraordinary workplace culture. It's not just about surface-level politeness. It's about deliberately shaping the team's psychology. The underlying feeling, think about that insight he shared. When leaders prioritize rituals that celebrate contribution over achievement, something profoundly transformative happens. And that's not just like warm, fuzzy feelings. It taps into a really basic human need we all have, to be seen, to be recognized, to feel like we belong.
Right.
When you actually take a moment to acknowledge specific contributions, not just general praise, but specifics, you're actually sort of tweaking the brain's reward system. Instead of just focusing on the final result or maybe being worried about failing, the focus shifts. It moves to the process, the effort people put in, the fact you're doing it together. It's a subtle shift, maybe neurologically, but it's why these rituals aren't trivial at all. They actively steer the team away from that, sometimes unconscious, what's in it for me default, toward a more collaborative, how can I help us succeed today kind of thinking. It reframes individual work as part of a bigger collective effort. And that's the mark of a truly high-performing team.
Okay, and a huge part of adding value, of really being able to contribute effectively in a team, is something we talk about a lot here, psychological safety. That feeling that you can actually speak up, share an idea, ask a question, even admit a mistake without fearing you'll be shut down or, worse, humiliated. It's critical. Williams makes a really bold connection here, he says, flat out. The simple act of beginning team meetings with genuine appreciation creates psychological safety. That feels like a big claim for something like a morning check-in. How does he back that up or illustrate it?
It's a crucial link he's making.
Yeah.
Because it directly ties that consistent, positive start to building an environment of trust. When a leader consistently, that's the key word, starts a meeting by genuinely appreciating specific things people have done, they're sending a really clear signal. I see your effort. It matters. And it's safe here for you to contribute, even to take a calculated risk. It's not just the words, it's doing it reliably. That builds predictability. And he gives this really great little story, an anecdote that shows it perfectly. He says, I watched a struggling team completely transform when their leaders started each gathering by acknowledging specific contributions. Within weeks, innovation flourished as people felt safe to share ideas. And that's where the magic happens, if you want to call it that. When people feel genuinely safe enough to throw out ideas, even half-formed ones, or challenge something respectfully without that fear hanging over them, that's when you get real innovation, real creativity. Effective problem solving. It moves way beyond just doing what you're told. It's about real engagement.
Okay, so building on that safety net, that foundation, Williams then introduces what he terms the most powerful ritual of them all, and that's developing an outward mindset. He's careful to say this isn't just, being vaguely nice or empathetic. He frames it as something much more strategic, much more impactful for how the whole team functions. So what exactly is this outward mindset? Why does he see it as so transformative?
Right. An outward mindset, the way Williams describes it, is about seeing beyond our own objectives to focus on others' needs and challenges. It's a very deliberate shift. You're actively moving from being primarily focused on me and my tasks to thinking about us and our collective goals. And you're right, he stresses it's not just about being a pleasant colleague, though that helps. It's strategic. It's about how you approach collaboration, how you solve problems together. Because when people and teams really start doing this, looking outward, they naturally start to grasp the bigger picture. They see how all the pieces fit together, how their work impacts others. Williams really hammers this point. Teams who practice this outward focus collaborate more effectively because they're no longer blinded by self-interest. So instead of just pushing your own agenda or seeing everything only from your department's viewpoint, you're actively trying to understand, okay, what does this person need? What challenge are they facing? How can my work help them succeed? That leads to way better solutions, fewer internal clashes, and just this palpable sense of shared direction. I've seen it myself. Conflicts just kind of melt away when people start asking, how does what I'm doing affect you? Instead of just, how do I finish my part?
That shift from me to we, yeah, that sounds incredibly powerful. And he makes it really practical, too. He gives this challenge, which sounds so simple, but when you think about it, it's profound. He says, try this tomorrow. Begin your day by asking, whose success can I contribute to today, rather than reviewing your to-do list? Whoa. He says that single question reframes everything. And just hearing it, it makes you pause, doesn't it? It really makes you rethink your morning routine.
It absolutely does, because it immediately flips your focus from thinking about what you need to get done, your tasks, your goals, to thinking about how you can contribute outwardly. It sets a tone of service and collaboration for the entire day right from the get-go. And Williams didn't just theorize about this. He's worked with teams, leadership teams across different sectors implementing this. The results, they really speak for themselves. He shares some really solid examples, like there was a healthcare team he mentions. They reduced internal conflicts by 35% after implementing structured morning connection rituals. 35%. Just imagine the ripple effect of that, not just on how staff feel, but probably on patient care too, right? And then there was a tech startup. They saw engagement scores rise 20% after leaders modeled vulnerability in weekly kickoffs. So these aren't just nice ideas. They're leading to measurable improvements in things that really matter for team health and performance. It just shows how these consistent, intentional practices, especially when combined with that outward mindset, can genuinely change a workplace culture.
Those numbers, 35% fewer conflicts, 20% higher engagement, they're not just compelling, they're pretty staggering, actually. But there's one thing Williams keeps emphasizing, sort of the glue holding it all together. He says, the key, consistency builds trust. Now, consistency and trust, that's not exactly a brand new leadership idea, but he really highlights its importance specifically for these rituals. Why is that consistency so critical? Why can't you just, do a nice check-in once in a blue moon and expect the same results?
Yeah, that's such a crucial point you're raising. Because if these rituals are just random or, done only when things are slow, they do just become hollow gestures. Performative, another box to check. What gives them their real power, what actually builds that deep trust, is the unwavering consistency. Think about it psychologically. Consistency creates predictability, and predictability is absolutely fundamental for trust. Our brains are wired to look for patterns, to feel secure when we know what to expect. So when leaders consistently make time for these things, the morning appreciation, asking that outward mindset question, leading the kickoff with openness, it sends this really clear nonverbal message. This matters. This isn't optional. This is part of how we operate here. That reliability, that's what builds real trust. Assure people these moments are genuinely valued, not just the first thing to get dropped when pressure mounts. Like Williams says, when leaders hold these moments sacred, teams feel the stability necessary for innovation. That stability is the psychological safety net. It allows people to stretch, to try new things, to be vulnerable, because they know the ground beneath them is solid and predictable. Without that consistency, any positive effects are likely to just fade away.
Okay, so pulling this all together then, what does this deep dive really mean for you? Listening right now, maybe thinking about your own team or workplace. Gunther Williams leaves us with some really potent questions to chew on. Questions like, what would change if you treated your team rituals with the same importance as your quarterly targets? Okay, so if you approached each interaction as an opportunity to serve rather than extract value. Oof, that's a big one.
They really are powerful questions, aren't they? They go right to the heart of what effective leadership and teamwork look like today. They challenge us to maybe rethink our priorities, to look beyond just the urgent task list in front of us. The core message from Williams seems crystal clear. Small, daily leadership rituals practiced consistently with genuine intent create extraordinary workplace cultures where people thrive. It's about realizing that the real work, well, it isn't just the final product, it's also the intentional, ongoing work of building a healthy, safe, productive, and trusting environment for everyone. And look, making these changes, it's not always easy, right? You might run into some skepticism at first, or just the sheer force of old habits wanting to rush past these moments. But the examples Williams gives strongly suggest that consistent effort, even if it starts small, really does pay off, big time. So maybe just take a moment, reflect on your own workplace, your team interactions. Are you maybe rushing the beginnings? Or could you start seeing them as these vital opportunities to build something better, something more lasting?
Wow, what an absolutely fascinating deep dive into how these intentional, consistent rituals can have such a massive impact on culture, on safety, on innovation. It really is striking how small shifts in how we start things can lead to such big transformative outcomes.
It really underscores that great leadership often isn't about the huge dramatic gestures, is it?
Yeah.
So much of it comes down to those consistent daily actions. Connecting, showing genuine appreciation, setting that intentional tone. That's what builds resilience and helps people grow.
Absolutely. And maybe the best takeaway is that final nudge from Gunther Williams. He asks us to consider, as you go forward, what's one simple morning ritual you could start tomorrow? Just one thing to begin shifting your team's culture. It sounds simple, but thinking about it and then actually doing it consistently, well, it could be the start of something truly significant for you and your team. And if you want to explore more from Gunther Williams, you can definitely find him on LinkedIn. He also hosts a podcast and has a YouTube channel, both called Unlocking Extraordinary Teams. So just search Gunther Williams, Gunther Williams, if you want to dig even deeper into his insights. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the perhaps surprising power of beginnings and intentional rituals. We really hope you picked up some valuable ideas, maybe some surprising facts that you can start thinking about and maybe even applying right away. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.